This is a Flying Cow production.
Book 1, Water. Book 2, Earth. Book 3, Fire. Long ago, Nickelodeon introduced a series called Avatar: The Last Airbender. It combined great anime-style animation, strong storytelling, heart, and humor. It was great, and everyone that saw it loved it. Until one day, a terrible movie came out which everyone hated. But my co-host Lauren Collins knows none of this because he's never seen the show. And that's why we are watching every episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender, because I believe this could be Lauren's new favorite show. Or at least top 20. Well, hello and welcome back to Comets and Cabbages, the Avatar: The Last Airbender podcast, here on the Flying Cow. My name is Clay Johnson, the Flying Cow himself, and I don't want to live in a library.
Well, my name's Amanda, and I don't like sand. It's coarse, it's rough, it's irritating, it gets everywhere.
And I'm Lauren, and I don't trust talking owls, and I encourage you also not to trust talking owls, especially when their mouths don't move.
Yeah.
And they're bigger than you are.
Giant talking owls.
But what if they sound like Hector Elizondo? What then, Lauren?
That I assume is why they trusted him. They're skeptical. They're not sure, but he sounds really cool.
Yes.
So
yes,
we're going to
does.
give him the benefit of the doubt here.
Absolutely. I don't know. You say that you're going to kill me if I do that, but you just sound so cool. I don't know. All right. Well, like I said, we are back here talking today about Avatar: The Last Airbender, another episode in this season. And I will say, this episode brings up something that's going to be very important going forward. It brings up the possibility of an eclipse. And we actually, this will be coming out quite a bit later, next month sometime, by the time that we're recording this, but
still much closer to this eclipse than the next one, to be fair.
It's true. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We actually just earlier this week had an eclipse. In fact, almost a week ago. A week ago tomorrow. And so I was curious, what were you guys' experience with the eclipse? Did you guys see it? Did your entire day stop? Did you even know about it?
So Dan actually went with his family up to Mount Vernon, Indiana on the Ohio River, and they watched it in totality.
Wow.
So I stayed back because I was already scheduled to work a couple of days and I didn't want to leave the cats, and because we had just left them. And so I watched it from work because we all got eclipse glasses when we went on the balcony and we all watched it.
Yeah.
And it was really fun. It just happened that I got to be on a break the whole time. So I got to be outside through all of it. It was great.
Very nice. Yeah, I got to be in the path of totality back in 2017, I think it was, when it hit northwest Georgia.
Sure.
Drove up there, had made a little eclipse projector with a pair of binoculars and cardboard and all that.
Yeah.
And I didn't plan ahead or think far enough ahead on this one. So over the weekend, I suddenly got it in my head. I might just drive up over, the morning of the eclipse, because it wasn't hitting till 3:00 in the afternoon. Go up to Paducah, Kentucky, which I also discovered is basically across the river from Metropolis, Illinois, where they have the Superman Museum and
Superman festival and all that.
Nice. The Superman festival's there. They put eclipse glasses on the Superman statue that you've all seen. Giant glasses. I had a rehearsal Sunday night briefly, and I got back home and I planned for this. I woke up at 5:30 on Monday morning.
Yeah.
Planning time, I was going to pack the car and then just drive 6 hours up there. And then I suddenly realized, I'm tired. I did not sleep well enough last night to get in the car by myself to drive for 6 hours.
Yeah.
But then have to then drive back after it was over, at least some distance back, because I didn't have a hotel room. So I instead drove up to the Telescience Museum in Cartersville and got to see some of the broadcasts there. They were piping in NASA footage. I got to go outside on the lawn. They handed out glasses. I got to watch the eclipse at its peak when it hit Georgia at like 3:05.
Yeah.
I got to go, look through one of the telescopes they had set up. It was a nice little sciencey day,
That's
and
Nice.
fun.
it was fun. And I got to confirm for the first time since the last time I was there that they honored a correction I had made to the Science Museum since the last time I was there.
Oh.
Exciting.
Yes, because the last time I was there, they have a wall with the periodic table. And
I saw the picture. Yeah.
yes, the picture. Yes. So the last time I was there, I looked at it's like that for each element. It says like when it was discovered, and it's like I'm not so sure that neon was discovered in 3000 BC. That seems.
There are so many like things I'm imagining of neon signs in like ancient times. It's just really funny.
So I emailed the science.
Ye olde shop.
Basically saying like, I think I have a correction to your science museum, and they wrote me back at the time and said, "You're right. That was an error in the printing." And so this is my first time back, and yes, it is now correct.
Yeah.
But no, I became a member of the Telescience Museum up there. I can go back other times and check it. It's very cool if you've never been.
Nice.
But now, it's not the next totality is not hitting the U.S. until I think for another 21 years.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Like 2044, 2045. Of like
2045.
But the path of totality will be going over Disney World.
Oh, that's
fun.
So I kind of want to watch it
Good
from
it is a more convenient path to the Atlanta area to get to the next time. I think the next
So you got some time to plan, folks.
All right.
Yeah.
Honestly, and the next total eclipse that hits anywhere, I think anywhere reasonable at least, is just 2 years away. It's going to hit like Spain and Portugal and Iceland and stuff like that. So I am honestly halfway tempted to I gotta say, being in the path of totality back in 2017, it is cool. Like I got annoyed when I was watching the feeds that just wanted to focus on the sun, because it's when you're in the path of totality, it's the space around you that just feels so cool. When it's just like the sun just got blotted out and it just turned everything around you turned to dark.
It's dark.
It's
so neat.
I don't want to really call it a spiritual feeling exactly, but it's kind of like that in a little ways.
Yeah. I will say I did not actually know about the eclipse until like the day of. But here's the thing. I work with children. So when I work with an after school program. And so like we got emails about it. And I was like, oh, okay. So this is going to be a thing. And I don't know what it was, but those kids were like werewolves at the full moon. Something about the idea of the eclipse was like energizing them, and they're just like, oh, the eclipse. Like it was insane. So when it finally came, I do a chess club, so not necessarily related to the eclipse, but when it came time, one of the mothers of one of my kids just came out and she was like, do you mind if I grab my son to take him out and go look? And I was like, honestly, if I send a couple coaches with you, do you mind just taking everybody? And she was like, sure. So I sent a couple. And here's the thing, like, when I was a kid, I remember being excited about the eclipse. The whole day was surrounded by it. Like, you spent your day making a little, when I was a kid, we made like the periscope so that you could like look at the eclipse. Now they got these fancy glasses.
Yeah, you get the really cool glasses. I remember having like the little paper thing. Child me was terrified because I kept hearing, don't look at the sun.
Because the way that they say it, it's like you could go blind.
Yeah, they make it sound like if you accidentally look up and glimpse at it, that you will go blind forever from that second on. I was like,
exactly. Yeah. So
it's just the eclipse is going to concentrate all the sun's energy like down to a finer point by passing.
Yeah, it's gonna kill you. But yeah, so I'm thinking, they'll be out there for a few minutes and then they'll come back in. they were out there for like 10 to 15 minutes,
Yeah.
just like staring up at the sky the whole time. And I'm just and honestly, most other people had come back in and my class was still outside. And then I was I'm looking up and I'm like, yeah, we've passed, where the thing at its apex long time ago, guys. Time to come back in.
Yeah. When you talk about growing up, you didn't grow up in the Atlanta area, did you?
No. I grew up in Arkansas, which, I told people that and they were like, oh, you would have been close to total. And I'm like, okay.
This year, yeah, you would have been.
Yeah.
No, back. See, if you'd been in the Atlanta area, we had a total eclipse back in like '85 that where the totality passed like right over Atlanta.
Oh, well, there you go.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like I don't remember much about it other than like there was an eclipse. I remember being outside when the eclipse came. I don't remember the experience exactly of the totality. But but no, it was a big deal because like it was basically just passing over the entire metro area.
Yeah. I mean, I will say my school was kind of lucky. Number one, we're right close to the door, and nobody really cared. Like I said, half the school was out there. But
That's
apparently there was
educational,
another
important.
club that, they had given all of their kids like these glasses. So the kids have all these glasses. And the coach asked, hey, so can we take them out and show them the eclipse? And they said, no.
What?
So thankfully, because they were having the same issue that we were, the kids were losing their minds. So thankfully, they were their classroom had a door that literally looked outside. So they just got in line one at a time and had the kids look out at the eclipse.
Yeah, you should not keep kids from seeing something like that. That's too important.
I really don't understand the reasoning there. I really don't. I'm just like, all right.
Some people
you gave them these glasses, but you can't see it.
Yes.
Not for you. The eclipse is John Cena for you. You can't see it. Yeah.
I had to go back and check. May 30th, 1984. And it sort of went from like New Orleans up towards like Greensboro and DC, but like it passed, and I cannot stress this enough, straight over Atlanta.
Wow. Well, there you go. All right. Well, I think we've had enough eclipse talk. Let's go ahead and let's get right into today's episode. We are today talking about episode 10, which after this episode, we are basically finishing up the first half of this season. We'll be entering the back half of the season after this. But episode 10, The Library, directed by Giancarlo Volpe, written by John O'Brien, and it premiered July 14th, 2006. And I will say it was originally aired as a one-part episode with the next episode and released as The Fury of Aang. I mean, we considered, talking about this as one episode, but these really, like they definitely feel connected, but they do feel like two separate episodes to me.
Yeah.
I could see it going either way.
Yeah, but we will be, talking about them as separate episodes. We'll do the next episode next week. But yeah, so basically the main idea of this one is that, Aang and the gang decide to find an ancient library that's supposed to have all sorts of knowledge, hoping that they can get one up on the Fire Nation, get some information. And while that happens, some very sad things come to pass. But more on that later. I mean, this episode, it starts off where apparently Aang and the gang are having mini vacations. Each one of them are just picking a spot on the map and saying, I want to go there and do stuff. I will say, though, they've picked a weird area for this to happen because they're like right around the desert. I'm like, couldn't we have gone to a more, exciting place, guys? The desert? This is where we're going to have our mini vacations? All right.
More exciting place than Tatooine?
What? Yes. Or Araxis from Dune? Or no, what's the name of the sand planet? I mean, Dune.
It's essentially called...
I've never read or seen Dune, so I don't have like any knowledge of that one.
You haven't seen Dune?
No.
What about Dune Part 2?
there's new ones. No.
Yeah.
No.
I've never
Okay.
seen any of it.
No.
All right, here's what you need to do. Watch the first one, go see the second one in theaters on an IMAX. Find it somewhere on an IMAX. That's it for the Dune talk right now. But it's Arrakis, by the way.
Oh, it is Arrakis. Okay, I was close.
It's Arrakis. But the thing is, on Arrakis, like they've still built like large, buildings and stuff. Like there's
True.
yeah. They've colonized Arrakis. Like
Yes.
this
Yes,
is
This is Tatooine little sand huts.
this is like what Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru were living in.
Well, it's what the Fremen are living in Dune. Again, guys, Star Wars is based on Dune.
How would I know that? I've never seen Dune.
Just saying.
The Fremen are also wanderers.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, they've got their little areas of buildings and stuff too, built into like mountains. Yeah.
We don't get any sandworms in this, but that owl's neck does get really long.
It's true. It's true.
So
getting a little worm-like. Yeah.
This is a Dune podcast by now, by the way. Anyhow.
All I know about Dune is there's a desert and there's a worm.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
all I know.
Yeah. It's a good setup.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they are, like I said, in the middle of the desert, having these little mini vacations. I will say, Sokka makes the point. He's like, shouldn't we be like making plans of like what we're gonna do? And Aang is just like, no, look, I'm learning my bending and stuff. We'll figure it out. And I'm like, honestly, I'm kind of with Sokka here. Like, I understand, I get that you can't rush training, and you do need to, enjoy yourselves, but we can plan and then enjoy ourselves.
Yeah.
It's like, it is a good idea to know what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Especially when your plan is saving the world.
Yeah, especially because it's not like they're just, they have the goal of he needs to learn, they need to defeat someone. Like that's an amorphous enough goal with an ambiguous deadline. They can finish that whenever. Sure. But no, they have a very firm deadline they're up against.
Yeah, Sozin's Comet. Yeah.
Yeah, which is all
make some plans.
A few months away. And yeah, it seems like taking a vacation when the end of the world is nigh might not be as strategic.
But Lauren, they're mini vacations, so that's fine, right?
Of course.
Well, I mean, mini vacations, but apparently in succession to each other, so they kind of add up.
So it's at least a full day.
Yeah,
that we're doing all of this.
Yeah, but see, this way it's not like several 3 days, 4 days at a time.
It's true. I will say though, the vacations. I mean. Yes, apparently Toph doesn't get one because she hasn't been there long enough. But the ones that we see, like Aang is like playing music for a bunch of prairie dogs. And then poor Katara gets cheated because she makes her decision based on an out-of-date map. So they go to like, to use your reference there, Amanda, broken down Mos Eisley.
Yep.
I'm very disappointed that there was no Cantina band in there. Yes. Like, I mean, there's Tusken Raiders standing outside. Yeah. You go in, knocks the drink over. I'm about ready to see. He doesn't like you. Yeah. Well, I don't like you either.
Yeah. But yeah, poor Katara gets cheated. I will say, the picture on that map of that oasis, I'd want to go there too.
Yeah.
That looks pretty cool. But apparently they left the ice sculpture out into the sun too long.
Yeah.
And it's like this big. By the time they get there, it's tiny.
I will say it almost feels like the entire mini vacation setup could just be there for the final joke of Sokka wanting to say like he wants to take his vacation at the library. Like,
100%. That's why they set it up so that they have a reason to go to the library. Yeah. But yeah, so while they are on these mini vacations, they do go to this oasis that's kind of crappy, but they also meet a wandering professor, Professor Zay, who is from a local university, and he is basically studying the neighboring areas and things like that, and he talks to them about this mythical, legendary library that was constructed by a knowledge spirit known as Wan Chitong, who we find out later is an owl voiced by Hector Elizondo, you know, very important. But you know, basically tells them all of this stuff, and Sokka is like, well, hey, we should go there because that surely that place will have information on the Fire Nation, because he's very frustrated. You know, he's wanting to make these plans, but he's very frustrated about the fact that there's not much information about the Fire Nation, because people who aren't from the Fire Nation don't go to the Fire Nation.
The Fire Nation goes to them.
Yes, exactly. And they don't want
become the Fire Nation.
Yes. Yeah, and it's kind of hard to talk to people from the Fire Nation if you're the Avatar or friends with him. But yeah, so you know, they're looking for information about the Fire Nation, so they decide to seek out this library in order to see if they can get some information. And of course, the professor does not tell them before they set out, oh, well, you know, some people think that it's not real. And they're like, oh, that would have been useful information to have earlier. But they are, you know, obviously, because they have Appa, they have a leg up. They don't have to wander the desert. They can actually fly over the desert and look around. And of course, they are looking for a massive building. You know, so they're scouring and they're having a hard time finding it. I will say, you know, it's depicted that they have been flying over this desert and looking around for a long time. And eventually, we hear a little bit from Toph.
There it is! That's what it will sound like when one of you spots it.
I love it so much.
I love that. I love that bit. It's one of my favorite jokes in Avatar. Just, you know, Toph messing with them. Like, because they glare at her like, why did you lie to us? And it's like, guys, she's blind. She can't see.
I just love the look of realization on their faces when they're like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Oh, but yeah. So they're looking around for the library. I will say eventually they spot this tall tower in the middle of the desert, and they go to check it out. And initially they're like, no, this can't be it, because it's supposed to be this huge museum. And then they see a fox-like creature carrying some, you know, a scroll in its mouth, jump up into the tower, and they realize that this must be the library, because the you know, Wan Chitong had these knowledge seekers that were basically spirit foxes that would collect knowledge to bring to the library.
There's
so
one in Persona 4.
I'm sorry?
There's one in Persona 4. A fox like that in Persona 4.
Oh, okay.
It's a video.
I don't. Okay, I was about to say I don't know what that is.
Okay, your knowledge.
You're speaking a different language to me.
Okay, so
Persona 4 is definitely
your knowledge with my knowledge of the Persona series. That kind of gives you an idea.
I thought you were like talking about like some like, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. It could be like some spiritual thing, or like I'm like really lost.
I mean, it is technically like a little spirit fox that's at the shrine in Persona 4, but that's what he reminds me of.
Okay. Well, there you go. Good to know. Anybody out there that understands that?
There's got to be some Persona fans here.
Persona 4 is the level of Scientology that she's reached. Is
That's right. The Persona level.
Yes.
All right. Yes. So anyway, you know, they decide to go into the library, with the exception of two people. Well, two characters.
Individuals.
Yes, two characters. Because, you know, Toph has absolutely no reason to go into a library. She's just like, yeah, I'll stay out here. And they're like, you don't want to go in? She's like, yeah, I've held a book. They don't do much for me. Again, Toph with the jokes. And then I will say Aang tells Appa, I'm not gonna make you go underground again. And I'm like, looking up at the windows, and I'm like, I don't think you'd have a choice, Aang, to be honest. Even if Appa really wanted to go in, I don't think he's going to fit. Because it's just these.
He could just barge himself in.
Yeah.
I mean, Appa's pretty cool like that.
Knock off the top, shimmy his way down. Just
yeah, because we all know how skilled Appa is at shimmying. Yeah, world champion shimmier.
Yeah. I did wonder when they then said like we'll climb in and we'll go down, and I wondered like they have a flying bison right there. He could just float them up.
I was gonna say he could have floated them up to. I don't know why they use the rope just to climb up as well, but they
they're
do.
not always the brightest.
Not always. No. So I will say I do enjoy the short, small amount of scenes that we get of Appa and Toph just hanging out because she tries to have a bit of a conversation with him. I will say that is a bit of a thing going on in this episode. She's not the only. The professor also tries to have a conversation with Appa. I will say, I don't know about you guys, I really enjoy the character of the professor because he's just like, he's so single-minded that he's kind of like, you can tell he's really smart, but he's also kind of dumb in some ways. He's not.
He's really singularly obsessed with this library.
Exactly. Yeah. So he doesn't get a lot of like common sense things and stuff like that. So his humor, like he's oblivious about a lot of basic concepts and things like. And his little bit with Appa where he asks Appa a question and Appa just goes, "Ah," and he's like, "Fascinating. I wish I understood your tongue."
Yes. They've somehow run into a professor archaeologist who is very, very unlike Indiana Jones.
Oh, yeah.
It's the most optimistic professor.
Oh, 100%. 100%. But yeah, so, they go into the library and they are immediately encounter the owl spirit, Wan Shi Tong. And basically he's just like, I don't let people in here anymore because they're always trying to kill each other. And I don't like people using my knowledge to try to kill each other. So you guys might as well just leave because, you all suck. And Sokka speaks up. Sokka, out of all of them, who is the one 100% trying to use even obviously the professor would be the clear one to speak to them because he is there 100%, as they say, knowledge for knowledge's sake. But no, Sokka's the one that speaks up and he's like, no, we're not gonna misuse the knowledge here. We got no beefs with nobody. Nuh-uh. The Avatar's here, that's his defense. And, I will say that, Hector Elizondo's like, all right, I'll give you a chance, but, don't let me down. And of course, Sokka's like, we fooled you. I'm just like, Sokka, shut up.
Sokka, don't mess with the talking owl.
No, do not mess with Hector Elizondo. You should know this.
If an owl starts talking to you, you want to stay on its good side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, so they start, looking through the library and looking for various things. Sokka, as he's going, is finding interesting bits of information that he pockets in his satchel. And he happens upon a piece of parchment that says, the darkest day in Fire Nation history, and, wants to know more. And so he tracks down the section that's supposed to have everything about the Fire Nation. And wouldn't you know it, those gosh darn firebenders, they burned it all up. It's all gone. All of it. So, Sokka is very upset. And I will say, this was definitely a part in the episode that bumped me a little bit. Because, obviously, Wan Shi Tong is all about, I don't want anybody using this knowledge, to fight anybody or gain the upper hand or anything. And these knowledge seeker foxes are supposed to be like working for him and on his side. But the knowledge fox comes up and is just like, hey, I'll help you. Come here. And I'm just like, does he not know what Sokka's going to try to use this information for? Or is he just so helpful? He's just like, I don't care. I'm going to do my job. I got to help you. I got to show you some stuff.
Yeah, I was confused by that because I assumed at first, like, the foxes, like you said, were just agents of the owl, and it turns out they're kind of like independent contractors with their own. Right. They don't care what his agenda is. They'll help out the nice kids who just happen to drop by. By the way, what I thought you were about to say a second ago, because it didn't occur to me while watching it, is that you would think, what's the name of the owl again?
Wan Shi Tong.
Wan Shi Tong. You might
or
think,
Hector Elizondo. That works.
Hector Elizondo. I'm going to call him Hector Elizondo.
Hector.
Well, the giant Hector Elizondo was very concerned about people, coming into his library and using it to hurt other people. You might think Hector Elizondo's bigger concern would be letting strangers in who then burn down parts of his library. Because I'm guessing that was not just like a wiring act.
I mean, I imagine that's one of the reasons he doesn't want to let people in anymore.
But you think that would be a higher priority than like what they're going to do with that information elsewhere? It's just like someone came in and destroyed an entire wing of his library to protect themselves for whatever reason, and then he apparently let them go. But yeah. I don't understand why that didn't irk him more.
I mean, I'm sure he did. I'm sure he went after them as like he went after the kids as well.
Sure.
But
I'm certain there was a great cutscene there that we did not get. Which
he ate them.
Yes.
I mean, I imagine that it was probably the same expedition where Zhao found the information about the Water Tribe, because he basically our giant flying Hector Elizondo let slip that is where Zhao got this information. He went looking for hugs and found out about the moon.
I saw in the wiki, this is the last appearance of Zhao in the series.
Yeah. I mean, it's in a flashback, obviously, but yeah, because we've technically already seen that scene. But he shows them this big room, which is basically a giant kind of planetarium. Set up. And so they put in the date that's on this parchment about the darkest day in the Fire Nation, and they discover that on that day was an eclipse. And so they're like, well, cool. So we just got, and I love how Sokka just says this at the top of his lungs. All we got to do is wait for the next eclipse, and then we can kill everybody in the Fire Nation. Cool. That's all right with everybody in the library, right? And that's when giant flying Hector Elizondo is like, shh, no talking in the library. Quiet. He's like, yeah, I just heard all your plans because you screamed them, dummy. Get out. And so they end up having, this chase trying to get out. And at some point, Katara and the professor separate from Aang and Sokka because Sokka's like, I know I just screwed this for everybody, but I got to find out, when the next eclipse is, because that's kind of the most important information here. And for some reason, when Hector Elizondo comes upon all four of them, he decides, you know what? I think Katara is the dangerous one here.
Yep.
And he goes after her and the professor.
Well, his concern was people using knowledge, and for all appearances, the professor's the one gathering knowledge.
Yep,
so...
he's all about gathering the knowledge. But little does he know that the professor is content to stay in his sandy prison.
No, I thought the exact same thing. The owl then proceeds to follow the two of them exclusively. While and Aang,
you two seem like the smart ones. I'm gonna get you.
Yeah. Whereas Aang and Sokka are free to spend what feels like days.
Yeah, they run back to. I think that's an orrery. To be honest, I could double check that counts.
I didn't know what it was called. I just knew it looked kind of like a planet.
No, I mean planetarium is the first thing I thought of too. But an orrery is something that mimics the paths of planets and moons and stuff.
Sure,
like that. So.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, well, then that definitely would be what it would be.
Yeah.
But they spend. Well, it at least seems like hours of them checking each date.
Presumably, less time is passing that, but like technically, it would take hours. It would take at minimum hours to do this, to just run this system for every day for like 3 months.
Well, because when they ran it the first time, like it took a good 10 to 15 seconds just to do one. So I would imagine that like trying every combination at least up until Sobusen's Comet, because they say, if it happens after that.
When you say every combination, I think basically he's just sort of turning the dial to just keep cranking through days.
Well, it's every date is what I mean. Every date from the day that they're on. Obviously it's not that day. But every date after that till
it was that day.
Oh, that would suck. It's like crap. It's tomorrow.
It is
no time.
It's right now.
Yeah. But so they do figure out that it's in like a month or two. And so, they run out with their information. And they are all trying to, finally, all four of them are trying to escape. Well, except for the professor, because he just decides, even though sand is piling up around. Oh, because I forgot to mention that when he discovered that when Hector Elizondo, giant feathery flying Hector Elizondo, discovers that they are using this information to defeat the Fire Nation, he decides to sink the library completely from the human world. So, there won't even be a little tower anymore. So they are all escaping. Well, while this is happening, Toph has been on the surface, hanging out, just chilling with Appa. They're swapping stories. Just
one thing I liked every time we cut back up to them is they're sitting in the shadow of the tower. I just like that as a detail.
Well, they're sitting in the shade.
No, that's what I mean.
That's all there is.
Exactly. I just appreciated that someone thought through it up. It's like, we're going to animate them sitting in the shade. Obviously.
Absolutely. Yeah. But, Toph and Appa are becoming fast friends. Well, then obviously the library starts to sink. I will say at a certain point in their conversation, Toph mentions to Appa that she kind of has a hard time seeing in the sand because, the sand is not solid like rock is, or any other sort of dirt. It's shifting. So everything's kind of blurry to her. So her vision isn't the best, but she does know that her friends have not gotten out of the library, yet it is sinking. So she goes and single-handedly keeps the library from sinking so that her friends can't get out. And is, like I said, just her holding this library up so that they can get out. Unfortunately, while that is happening, and she can tell that it's happening because she can at least sense that people are coming with her feet. A band of sandbenders, or as we have agreed to call them, sand people, come and basically start to restrain and tie up and leave with Appa. And of course, Appa puts up as good a fight as he can. Toph tries, but because she can't see, with the sand, she isn't able to do much. And at the same time, she's also trying to keep her friends from disappearing from this world. So I will say, I feel really bad for Toph in this situation, because you can tell she wants to help and defend Appa. She wants to protect her friends. Unfortunately, she has to make a choice. Yeah. And it's a horrible choice, but she knows that if they, take Appa, well, if she gets her friends back, they can go after Appa. But if she goes and gets Appa, her friends might not make it back. Yeah. So, sucky situation for Toph. Really feel for her.
And somewhat implicit in all of this too is that even if she was just choosing to save the library and save her friends,
right?
Her blindness is a weakness in this situation, because she can't even just keep an eye on where Appa is headed. Like, you can't just
I think she can feel a basic direction, but she is inhibited.
Yeah.
I think she can feel the vibrations of the direction in which they went, but I think had this been regular land, she would have, probably felt him when they came out and would be like, he's this way, let's go, guys. But because it's sand, like you said, she's limited.
If it were regular land, all she'd have to do is like stomp her foot, and
it's true. Yeah, they wouldn't have even gotten away. Yeah, exactly. She would just twitch her toe, and they're all like eating dirt.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the gang escapes. The professor decides that he wants to sit in the sand for the rest of eternity. And he stays. Yeah, I know.
A lot of lunches. Yes.
Yeah. But they make it out, and immediately Sokka and Katara are just like, yes, we made it out. But Aang immediately starts looking around and is like, where is Appa? And you can tell that, Toph feels horrible, but she tells him that, he was bison napped. He's been taken. And you can tell Aang is really not happy about this situation. And that is where the episode ends. Pretty much. Do you guys have anything else that you wanted to talk about in terms of this episode?
I can't think of anything.
I was going to note earlier when the owl asked them for like tribute for what they could offer. We got reappearances from the Water Scroll from a previous episode.
I did wonder if, because I believe Paku gives them additional Water Scrolls. Was that the Water Scroll that she handed? I assumed it was the one she got from the pirates.
I assumed it was the earlier Water Scroll.
Yeah.
To be honest, and the wanted poster.
Yes. I did forget to mention that he asks for offerings from all of them in order to peruse the library. Yeah. And they all have, I mean, obviously, the professor and the the professor and Katara are, the teacher's pets. They do the best.
Yeah.
Aang presents a wanted poster, and he's just like, yeah, whatever. And then, of course,
the continuity of like we have two of the characters presenting things that that these are things they actually we've established they do have on them.
Yeah,
or they picked up in the past. It makes sense they'd still have it on them.
Yeah, yeah. And then of course Sokka presents a knot, and he goes, "That's knowledge." And of course, yeah, he's just like, "You're not very bright, are you?" And I'm like, "Actually, Sokka's very bright. He's just also kind of, silly."
Yeah. It occurs to me now that as we were watching this, like they weren't giving us they weren't saying any specifics really about like when these dates of the eclipses and stuff were. But now I realize, like, I'm not sure we've ever established like how calendars work in this world. Like if
not really
how dates work. Like they really have some obviously way of measuring time, and we have years.
Yeah.
But like they can't just say like a month or a day, because that would possibly break it.
I mean, they do mention that Sozin's Comet is coming by the end of the summer.
Summer.
They have
that's just a
season,
exactly.
but not not specifically named months. I mean,
Yeah.
I will say if they had said it's coming in September, I would have felt a little.
No, exactly.
Really?
That's
you
what
guys
they're up
call
against.
it September too.
That's what
Yeah.
they're up against and they can't do. Like it reminds me of like in the Dark Crystal, especially in the TV show. Like I think they had they have some other word in that show for year.
Sure.
But which they did use so much it kind of grates on you that like they keep referring to this word that's like I would honestly be happy if they just used the word year. If they didn't have to say that. But
yeah, I was about to say I don't need you to change months and years, but what those months and years are called,
exactly.
I'm fine. You know, call it the month of Meshugana or whatever. You know,
that's right. It would not throw me at all if there was a Jewish month in the Avatar world.
Yes,
It's
the high month of Meshugana.
just all the months should have Jewish names. It's just
Oh, yeah.
No, I mean, I do wish we'd gotten, possibly just because I love libraries. I wish we'd gotten a little more time in the library before, it went bye-bye.
Yeah.
Just a little more time for them to explore it. If we'd spent a little more time on that, a little less time on the mini vacation, just a couple minutes less on the mini vacation stuff at the start, that would have been nice. Because yeah, again, it has a burnt down room. It has a very fancy orrery. It presumably has some other stuff. It's the guy has somewhere to eat. I'm gonna assume like a Barnes and Noble, it has a Starbucks somewhere back in one corner. Probably manned by some foxes.
I was gonna say, I bet the foxes work there.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe they're the ones that bring him food because I want to know what he eats.
Yeah,
the owl.
Yeah,
Or
gotta eat
Hector Elizondo.
I can't imagine he eats the owl. That would be very very risky.
No, I was thinking like what the owl eats.
Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah, honestly, that professor's dead.
Yeah, the
Oh,
owl
yeah.
Because by the time it sinks, that thing's full of sand.
that professor needs to eat something, and not sand. So,
But do we think it like the library like moved to the spirit world?
I think.
I think
Or if that's where Hector Elizondo went.
Yeah, I mean, I think he did say he was taking it back from the human world.
Okay.
I would imagine that eventually it would go toward, but I don't know if he would allow that guy to stay there.
Oh no, he's dead. I was just wondering if the owl went to the spirit world.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm assuming that
have.
he went back to the spirit.
I mean, the owl's concern is like people aren't going to use this to harm anything. If he's stuck in the library, no problem there. But yeah, if it has an orrery, it might have a cafeteria. You can just go, select some items there.
I don't know. You know what? Maybe after that, Hector Elizondo kind of feels the same way that God did after, flooding the earth. He's just like, you know what? It's fine. And that guy can be his like assistant in the spirit world.
Yeah, and he would be happy to. he could just be the librarian in the library. If you've seen Sandman, like Lucian in Sandman.
There you go.
Just be the right hand man there in the library. But no, I tend to assume, even though Sam was piling up, he's okay if hungry. By the way, he was voiced by Raphael Sbarge.
I was gonna ask if anybody knew because I was like, his voice is familiar, but I wasn't really sure who it was.
Yeah, I wouldn't have recognized Raphael Sbarge's voice. He seemed interesting enough. I wanted to look it up, and that's when I saw it. I honestly associate Raphael Sbarge, weirdly enough, with a Disney TV movie from back in, I want to say like the 90s called, I think it was Return to Hannibal, where he played like an adult Tom Sawyer.
Oh,
I know that one.
It had an adult Tom Sawyer and an adult Huck Finn, and I think I want to say Tom Sawyer ends up being a lawyer. One of them becomes a lawyer. One becomes a lawyer. One becomes a journalist.
Interesting.
Yeah. But no, it's a pretty good episode.
Yeah.
And I having seen the next one, I can see why Nickelodeon would package these and make them like an event.
Yeah. I mean, especially the way this one is left. It feels, especially for a kid's show, it feels pretty heavy to end on this note.
This kind of personal cliffhanger.
Yes, exactly.
Which is a little more, and granted, we don't actually solve that cliffhanger by the end of the next episode. But
no.
But yeah, it's a little more personal to Aang than when like Umashu is controlled by the bad guys.
Right.
Right. I was about to say
because that one they did leave on a cliffhanger. They didn't play the next episode.
But that's what I'm saying. That's a different kind of cliffhanger. We can end on just like the Empire controls Omashu.
Right.
Right. But Appa, no, we want to follow.
Emotionally invested in Appa.
Exactly.
It's true. All right. Well, anything else before we move on to segments?
No.
No.
Do we have a name for the little town? I was going to suggest Masaka, but
Masaka.
all right. Yeah.
Mos Eisley.
Saka Eisley.
Saka Eisley.
Saka Eisley.
We're just gonna.
Moss is the name. In Mandalorian, we've gotten Mos Espa and Moss. I think Pelgu.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so, then Masaka.
Yeah, Moss is clearly the Tatooine name for city, but yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, then let us go ahead and let's move on to our segments, and we are going to start with our My Cabbages moment.
My cabbages!
Which is, of course, the moment in the episode where we talk about our favorite or most interesting moment or scene in the episode. So, Amanda, I'm going to let you start. What is your My Cabbages moment?
There it is. That's what it'll sound like when one of you spots it.
Yeah. It's just a solid joke. Especially, you know, we as an audience are still getting to know Toph. So it's nice to show her showing a bit of a sense of humor while also kind of being snarky and, you know, showing her personality. So yeah, kind of fun. All right, Lauren.
I guess I'm probably gonna go with the Ori. I like those in general. They have that Lego now sells one. But yeah, seeing that someone in this world has done that kind of scientific work and, you know, built that sort of thing, it provides us with a little bit of the mythos for the show with the Fire Nation. The fact that like an eclipse can hurt, you know, can limit the Fire Nation. I think this is the first time that's come up.
Yeah.
Although I'm going to guess when that finally plays out in this show, that eclipse is not going to be like ours, 4 minutes long.
Right.
Otherwise, like, we won't reach the next commercial break, and it's like, oh, we're screwed again. We have all the powers back.
Yeah.
But granted, the total part from the beginning of the eclipse to the end, not just the totality, it lasts longer. But yeah, I like that. I'm the entire library. I like the conceit of it. So yeah, I'll go with that.
All right. I honestly, I'm going to pick kind of an interesting scene because it's not a fun scene, but I do think it's a very interesting scene because of the tension that it creates. And that is the scene where, unfortunately, Toph is having to make a decision about what is more important in the moment and having to allow Appa to get bison napped while saving her friends. I mean, like I said, it's not a fun scene, but I enjoy kind of seeing this because you can I mean, you know, like Toph's apologetic. Like, she hates that this is happening in the moment, but she also recognizes because of the situation that she's in, she really doesn't have a choice. So I really enjoy that scene for a character moment for Toph. All right. But let us now go into our next segment, which is the Mako Award. This is our favorite or most interesting character from the episode. Lauren, you're going to start us off this time. Who is getting your Mako Award?
That would be Hector Elizondo's giant creepy owl slash, I guess after he does his Pokemon evolution, like an owl dragon type of thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Stretches out his neck, and yeah, he is kind of like a dragon.
Yeah, kind of like I don't know who else does that. E.T. I don't know. E.T. stretches his neck out.
I mean, yeah, a little bit.
Very long.
It's pretty long.
Yeah,
creepy dragon neck. But no, I've been a little hesitant in the past when the show has tried to go beyond just like the mysticism of bending itself into more spiritual aspects. But this,
Sure.
for some reason, like no, this worked fine for me. Maybe because it was buried in the desert and whatnot. But
I was about to say it wasn't like in the spirit world. It was in the physical world,
yeah.
and it was just spirits within the physical world.
No,
So,
and the spirit's like the end of season 1 when he went into the spirit world and met the thing with many faces and whatnot. That was fine too. This
Sure.
worked in the same way for me.
Okay.
I liked it, and also Hector Elizondo just sounded really cool.
Yeah, I mean, how do you not like Hector or appreciate Hector Elizondo's voice? It's just great.
The entire thing, and I also kind of respect the decision to not have his mouth move. So like that added another sense of ominous mysticism to it. It had very like Miyazaki vibes to it to me.
It definitely looked very Miyazaki. Yeah.
Yes. Both how he was designed and how he was portrayed. And so maybe that's why it struck a chord for me. Hector Elizondo's Al, whose name I cannot remember.
Wan Shitong.
Wan Shitong, that's
Hector
right.
Elizondo's good enough.
Yes.
All right, Amanda.
I'm giving it to Toph because she had a hard time, and I thought she was doing the absolute best she possibly could. So I'm giving it to Toph.
All right. Well, I will say number one, honorable mention to Professor Zay, because I found him such an entertaining character. Like I really did think that he was very entertaining, very funny, because he is just, like I said, so, erudite and so single focused that he's also kind of an idiot.
I wish he got to spend a little more time with the gang.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been nice if he had been like in a couple of episodes rather than just this one. Because then maybe I could have given it to him. But he was also in the same episode with Hector Elizondo. And how do you not give it to Hector Elizondo? So I'm giving it to
Amanda, how do you
I'm giving it to Toph.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm giving it to Hector Elizondo. But like I said, shouts out to Professor Zay, because I thought he was a very entertaining character. All right, well then it is time to rate this episode on the Avatar State Meter. We can rate it anywhere from 1 to 5, 5 being the best, the show at full power, 1 being the worst. It could deal the show a fatal blow. So Amanda, I believe we're back to you. What would you rate this episode?
I'll give it a 4 because it has one of my favorite moments in all of Avatar, which is the Toph joke.
The Toph joke is solid. Yeah.
And she's got some good ones all through this one.
No, it's true. It's true. All right, Lauren.
Well, I'm going to echo Amanda. I'll also give it a 4. I really liked a lot about this episode. It does, like we touched on earlier, I think suffers from some plot holes really towards the end, where just like it does not make sense that Sokka can just run off and like spend that much time in the middle of a chase sequence. But those are minor issues. On the whole, it's a fun episode.
Okay. All right. I am also going to give this a 4. It is a good, solid episode. And it's setting up some very important elements, or some elements that are going to be very important going forward for the rest of the season and possibly the series. And like I said, 2 great guest stars, guest characters, and just hitting on all cylinders was this episode. So 4 for me. So it is time now to go ahead and let people know how to get in contact with us. You can contact me at the Flying Cow Pod on Twitter and Instagram. You can also email at theflyingcowpod@gmail.com. Make sure to check out all of the shows that we've got coming up. Lots of great stuff. So check that stuff out. Don't forget to also check out the Patreon, patreon.com/theflyingcow. Cal, Lauren, tell the people what you got going on.
You can find me on Twitter at Lauren Collins. Not currently casting any shows other than by the time this thing drops, I am producing an all-lawyer musical here in the Atlanta area. If you want to learn more about that, you can go to Bard Show, B-A-R-D, bardshow.com.
Right. Amanda.
You can find me on socials at Amanda Van Heil. And you can also find me on Twitch at Panda Princessa and on Zelda Universe TV on YouTube.
Yeah. And we will be back next time reviewing the episode The Desert. So make sure to check that out. But until that time, moo.
Mm.